Signal Sciences secures the most important web applications, APIs, and microservices of the world's leading companies, protecting over 7,500 applications and 150 billion production requests per week. Signal Sciences Next-Gen WAF and RASP help companies increase security and maintain site reliability without sacrificing velocity, all at the lowest total cost of ownership. Signal Sciences' patented technology protects any application against any attack, with integrations into any DevOps toolchain. Signal Sciences, demand more from your WAF. Learn more at signalsciences.com/PSW. Let the team at Black Hills Information Security test your defenses. With over 10 years of experience in penetration testing, red teaming, and threat hunting, the testers at Black Hills will help you find the holes in your security before the bad guys do. The team at Black Hills cares about educating and sharing their knowledge by creating countless blogs, open source tools, and webcasts for you to learn more about the tradecraft of pen testing and red teaming. Visit securityweekly.com/BHIS to join their mailing list and view the latest blogs and webcasts from Black Hills Information Security. Effectively securing your organization and its reputation requires a smarter approach. To maximize efficiency and minimize risk, security experts turn to LogRhythm, the only leading solution built solely for security teams by a security team committed to your success. With Next-Gen SIEM, user and entity behavior analytics, network traffic and behavior analysis, security automation and orchestration, and compliance, LogRhythm provides security made smarter. Welcome back, everyone, to Enterprise Security Weekly. We've heard from our listeners that there's just too much content for you to handle, and it's overwhelming. If you go to securityweekly.com/subscribe, click the button to join the listener list, and we are furiously working on a system that will notify you when we publish content that falls inside of your interests. Security Weekly will also be at Hacker Halted in Atlanta, Georgia, this October 10th through the 11th. EC Council is offering a 15% discount to our audience for any of their bootcamp courses or workshops. Visit securityweekly.com/hackerhalted to register today. And then it says end of show on my teleprompter, so I guess that concludes. Oh, no, wait. We still need to do the news. What's going on, Matt? There's some funding announcements happening. Auth0 has been, the term unicorn gets thrown around, Matt. What is that? Did I get that term right? It is the unicorn. What does that mean? Unicorn status, unicorn funding. I thought there was no such thing as unicorns.
So unicorn is used to identify a company that has a $1 billion valuation or more. That's kind of the baseline for unicorn status. They raised 103 million? Yep. What was the number? Yeah, 103 million. Total of $210 million in. And this valuation says they are now a $1 billion valuation or higher. I think it's a little high, actually, because I went out to Owler and looked at some of the calculations. They're probably somewhere between 700 and 800 million. But we'll see. I mean, look, you can raise money on certain valuations. The question is, what's the public market going to give you if you go public with that number? Those are two completely different numbers. Just ask Uber and Lyft if their valuations were correct.
Exactly. Guardicore raised $60 million in a Series C round.
Yeah, you actually briefed with Guardicore, I think, at one point. So I think you have a little more insight into what Guardicore is doing. But yeah, another investment here to allow them to continue to grow. What you're going to typically see from companies is, a series of investments at different stages to continue to propel growth. I didn't look at the valuation for this one. I didn't get a chance to do that, but it seems a reasonable investment. I've seen other C's in the tens of millions of dollar range.
Yeah, Guardicore's been able to adapt their technology to the changes and advancements in technology. They kind of went from protecting your virtual infrastructure when it was more about virtual machines to microservices, and have continued that trend. And with $60 million in funding, they're certainly showing that they can keep up with technology. There is a certain element of zero trust in there as well as some mapping and helping you understand your environment and the trust connections. And then zero trust comes in when you basically apply policy across those.
Got it.
ThreatQuotient extends integration with the MITRE ATT&CK Framework to offer full support for customers. It's kind of interesting. We think of ThreatQuotient as more of a threat intelligence company. now doing stuff with the MITRE ATT&CK Framework. I mean, we could see that if threats are using, if they're classifying threats based on the attack vector that is defined by MITRE. We're seeing it become more and more of a standard. Essentially, I think any chance a security company has to use in their marketing the MITRE ATT&CK Framework, it garners attention because MITRE has built up a name for the attack framework over the past couple of years. So, or when did they come out? It's been at least a year.
Yeah, and I think what this allows vendors to do is to tie their value to something that is becoming standardized when it comes to looking at attacks. And so if you can align your solution into the MITRE ATT&CK Framework and show value of how, in this case, I read it more as pre-attack, right? Based on the threat intel I'm getting, what's the likelihood that it hits one of these things on the MITRE ATT&CK Framework is kind of how I read this article a little more. Is kind of that precursor. But again, people are going to leverage the MITRE ATT&CK Framework as kind of a baseline of how to look across the different attacks and which solutions they're going to deploy. And if you align your solution to that framework, it's probably more likely that you're going to get purchased as part of an overall strategy to address the MITRE ATT&CK Framework.
Where'd you want to go? I was looking at check marks, largely because I've included some static analysis in my development workflow, and I really like it. I mean, it's a basic linting tool, right, that tells me if I'm doing something really stupid, right? And I like it, but I think you really need to start off slow, right? Like, it's not breaking a build cycle for me. It's not preventing a push to production. But it's like a spell checker inside your code, basically, right? If you've ever used an IDE before, or if you ever used Microsoft Word, you make a spelling mistake and it puts a little squiggly line under it, right? Basically, the IDE highlights a bunch of stuff, and it's all configurable. Checkmarks and other vendors, of course, take that to the next level by analyzing your source code for potential security vulnerabilities. And again, I think it needs to be a slow kind of ramp up for your developers. Now, what was interesting is Checkmark's software exposure platform for the enterprise, which I don't know what that means. I think of it more, I guess it depends on where they're looking at the source code or whether they're doing binary analysis or not. But they're authorized FedRAMP provider for a platform as a service. And that's essentially the U.S. federal government's private cloud, right, is FedRAMP.
It's the program that allows commercial products to be certified in the federal government that is cloud-based. There's other cloud environments. So there's GovCloud and then there's like C2S, which is DoD classified. So there's a couple different versions of clouds within the federal government. Amazon has some, and I'm sure Microsoft and Google have them. I don't know the names of them.
So this allows federal agencies to use the public cloud?
Correct. As these solutions. So it certifies public cloud providers like Qualys. Qualys is FedRAMP certified as well. They've gone through these different requirements to be certified. Now can be used by federal agencies to leverage those. What I thought it was interesting is FedRAMP Moderate or DoD Impact Level 5. There's different levels that you can get certified to as well. So it depends on the agency and the data that's being stored or worked on as part of the agency that dictates whether you can use them or not in the program.
Cool. KnowBE4's got another acquisition. I thought we just covered them having another. There wasn't much in this article.
No, I couldn't get the details for this one. It has to do with security culture, but I couldn't get the details on this one, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's something about the culture. It looks like a measure and manage security culture with CLTRE toolkit. That's all I get. That's really all I get from their website. Manage human risks in the human factor. There's a lot of really fancy diagrams on there, on the website of the company they bought. Interesting. Anyway, moving on. Duo Mobile makes it easier to restore your third-party personal accounts. Of course, Duo being all about the user experience in ease of use, allows you to more easily now automatically reconnect third-party accounts, which I thought was interesting that Duo being acquired by Cisco, they're still making enhancements in the vein of making it more usable by the end user to its products. So props for Duo for doing that.
Yeah, and this is to help with things like Facebook and Slack and other personal accounts that you might want to use two-factor authentication on. It's moving a little more to the commercial side, but again, a lot of people like Duo for its ease of use, and so if I also have some of my personal accounts being protected by Duo, that's a good thing.
Mm-hmm. InfoSight launches the first agentless cloud workload protection platform. It's a mouthful. Wow.
It is, and so I was trying to get some of the details on this one because this is not easy to do, right? There's a lot of cloud workload protection platforms that are agent-based. That's how most of these guys work, right? Whether it's a Windows agent or a Linux or a kernel or something like that, you need to tie into the infrastructure and kind of monitor the whole thing. And then a lot of these cloud workload protection platforms would then leverage that agent to do some stuff within the containers, right? If you're at the kernel, you can monitor the Linux processes that are running the containers to get some insight into container security. They say they're agentless. So the question is, okay, so how are you doing this?
So is this like another name for a CASB or?
Well, I don't know. Again, trying to dig into the details, trying to figure out, okay, what did they actually do? How did they do this? Did they embed themselves via an API, via a software hook, via something else? I still don't. I couldn't get it, so I got to dig in a little deeper because I really want to understand how they're doing it. Because the issue, as we all know, is we move to serverless, the ability to have an agent running is going to be less likely in the cloud. You're going to have your network layer is abstracted, your endpoint layer is abstracted, your Kubernetes layer might be abstracted in a pure serverless Fargate environment, right? And so the only way to do this is outside of agents. But then there's a lot of different approaches, and I'm trying to figure out which approach they're using to say, is this something that's really, really cool and innovative? Or is this, it doesn't give you the capabilities you need? I don't know yet, but it's an interesting announcement because this is where the market's going to move, I think.
Now, do you think the market for the SOC analysts is moving towards heads-up displays for your SOC analysts?
I don't know because I've never worked in a SOC, but my guess is people would like a better user experience in the SOC. I just don't know if it's a heads-up display or just more monitors.
I mean, first of all, SOC analysts would think it was the coolest thing, right? If they had some kind of VR heads-up display that allowed them to interface with the data that they're analyzing. That I think for employee morale, that would probably be the biggest jump, right? In terms of moving a meter. However, I'm not sure how new user interfaces, if we're ready for God, I'm going to use this term. Someone shoot me. Next generation user interfaces, right? Is there a voice or speech component to it, right? Where you interface with it like the devices from Amazon or Google that allow you to talk to them. There have been a similar interface. I think Endgame did something with an Amazon device, right? And now a heads-up display is kind of like a similar kind of thing where your analysts aren't interfacing with the data and systems through a traditional computer, but with some other type of device. I just don't think we're ready for it, Matt. I still think we've got a lot of issues and challenges to give the SOC analysts what they need, including proper training, the proper data, going back to Corey's interview, right? The proper data correlation, the proper tools, the proper feeds to collect from. Going back
the ability to correlate and analyze better to give me the alerts that I should really be focusing on.
Yeah.
I mean, we're still struggling there in the SOC, right?
And then to go back to Candy's point, the education, right? Allowing everyone from junior people to senior people to understand the new technologies that are emerging in all different facets to essentially end up with a SOC that can better discover and more quickly fix the problems that are there. Until we fix those two issues, I think that the user interface is not the challenge that we're faced with today in the SOC.
No, not yet. I mean, it's gotten better. We've put more stuff in there. We've got more tools, more interfaces, but we're still drowning in alerts and trying to identify what's critical to address and what's not. That's where I'd rather see people focus, get that better. Then we can figure out how to improve the user experience through different user experience and user interface design.
Yep. Exabeam enhances their security management approach and boosts a cybersecurity degree program. They announced a partnership with Deakin University in Australia to strengthen its security management approach and bolster its already distinguished cybersecurity degree program delivered through the School of IT. Well, I mean, this is addressing what we're talking about with Candy in terms of giving students the right curriculum, which is not always very easy. We've had some segments on Paul Security Weekly that have addressed this issue recently.
Yeah, and I think it behooves all vendors in the industry, in my opinion, to work closely with academia and getting the tools that are in enterprises in the hands of students earlier.
Agree.
Right? Tenable did this with Nessus, in really trying to get Nessus into the university so people had a working knowledge of how to use Nessus when they came out of school. Exabeam's here doing it in Australia. Cisco's done it in various places with the different academies.
And Amazon's done it as well. I mean, we've had students come through here Security Weekly that have had training on AWS, which, I mean, you could consider a commercial product, right? But they've had formal training in it, which is not every single advanced module in Amazon Suite, but it certainly helps.
Yeah, and if we can get these tools into academia as part of programs and people get hands-on usage as part of their education, just think about how much better they are ready to walk into an environment and succeed instead of what Candy said is being 18 plus months behind in technology because the programs are old and outdated. The tools they're using are old and outdated. So I'd love to see more of this. I'd like to see it more adopted because I think it would help all of us in that skills gap shortage we have.
Absolutely. Anything else in the news this week you wanted to mention, Matt?
There was one. Let me find it. Hold on.
Oh, Shodan. Sorry.
Yeah, Shodan. Yeah, the Shodan one.
This was probably the best story this week. So, as we've covered, right, there's all kinds of different companies today that can help you get the external view of your organization, right? And they range in features. We've talked about them before. We've talked about Expanse. We've talked about, let's see, what are the other ones? Digital Shadows, Flashpoint, right? In all, I mean, that's probably pretty good representation as they all have very different approaches to helping you understand. And the one I just did a briefing with that basically came out of Stealth, right? What was that called? Palladium? No. What was it called? Oh, hold on. I have my digital notebook, so I can tell you. I'm not sure that I would. It's a different way of looking at this, and I'll have more in the next briefings.
Is that the Prevaliant guys?
Prevaliant, thank you.
Yes, Prevaliant.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yep, Prevaliant. It's just a different perspective on getting the external view of your organization. Now, Shodan, which many of us know, many of us love, has offered up some commercial plans that you can essentially give it your external IP address space, and they'll tell you all kinds of information about it. It'll do diffs. It'll do vulnerability search filters, which is kind of interesting as well. Support. So the corporate one's like $900 a month, which, I mean, if you've got a large organization and that saves you a bunch of time and gives you actionable information, I think it's totally worth $900 a month, Matt.
Yeah, this is going to be interesting because it's going to compete with some of these commercial solutions, these guys that are doing all this external data collection. And I don't know how those guys price, so I'm not sure how cost effective this is. But Shodan's taking all this data they've been collecting, now putting some commercial capabilities together. It could have some disruptive aspects to the existing guys that are trying to build commercial products around this. We'll see how it plays out. But look, we use this when we were at Tenable doing all kinds of our research. You can do it for free. Getting some of these additional capabilities, especially in a very large organization, this may be a very cost-effective solution.
What I love is if you look in the comments, this was posted to the SANS Internet Storm Center diary, and I think it's the third or fourth comment, the last comment, it basically says, oh yeah, someone's Git repository has an nmap ndiff script, which basically does the same thing, but using nmap and is an open source bash shell script to essentially accomplish the same thing, which kind of backs up my point on this whole thing, that it's not all that difficult to really gain some level of external footprint of your external architecture. The tools are definitely available to you. So if you want to use the open source version and give it a shot, hey, why not? All you got to do is pay for some cloud hosting provider somewhere and pay for the bandwidth. Which, I mean, you can spin up a DigitalOcean or the Node box for a couple of dollars a month and probably be fine to run this script. Or you can, pay $900 and get a lot more features. And then you've got all the commercial vendors. So lots of options. And the other point, too, is people should be doing this. This is something that you should absolutely be on your radar, and I feel like it's not for a lot of organizations, is getting your external fingerprint. And that means a lot of things, don't get me wrong. So,
yeah, I mean, part of it is just understanding what's out there externally that's even potentially an attack vector. I mean, organizations struggled with just knowing where are all their external assets, let alone the security posture of all those. So, there's definitely use cases here that organizations need to understand from an inventory, maybe some classification, and then from a threat perspective. Shodan gives you an opportunity to do it for free. There's other tools out there for free, but then you can provide some additional value that can help you really understand your risk posture externally, make decisions on how to reduce that. That's what we're all about.
That's it. Well, thank you everyone for listening and watching this edition of Enterprise Security Weekly. That wraps up the show. We'll see everyone next time.